to call the meeting to order. Tonight, obviously, we will have no pledge and we do not have audience delegations. And then just as a side note for the students of the month, if everybody could go in and watch those videos, we're not going to play them tonight during the meeting, but if you could go in and watch those videos, please. All right, so now we need a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I move to approve the agenda as presented. Cameron.
Aye, or second.
Okay, we need oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, I was trying to figure out my phone there for a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
How did we do this before? Did we go ahead and do a roll call on everything?
I think we did, just because it's hard to see
Yeah.
who says yes and who says no. So do you want me to do that again?
Let's do that again. As soon as we were all trying to say aye, I thought, yeah, that's not gonna work.
Nancy,
Yes.
Cameron,
Yes.
Brittany,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Bing,
Yes.
Doug Alexander.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, we need a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved, Brittany.
Second.
Who is that? Bing?
Yeah.
All right. Nancy,
Yes.
Cameron,
Yes.
Brittany,
Yes.
Doug Meyer,
Yes.
Tina,
Yes.
Bing,
Yes.
Doug A. Gotcha.
Speak, Doug, speak.
I asked him to unmute. Let's see. There we go. Thank
Doug
you.
A, yeah.
All right, now moving on to monthly information items. Does anybody have any questions or comments about that?
Just noticed how high the attendance rate is for all the buildings. It's amazing to me during this time that the attendance rate is where it's at.
Well, Nancy,
About
when kids are virtual, we get 94% attendance rate for those kids who are virtual. So if those kids who are full-time virtual. So for example, if the family declared that they're on Odyssey Wear or Launch for the first semester, then we automatically, if they finish the course, regardless of what their grade is, if they finish the course, we get 94% on their attendance. Now, kids who are quarantined, let's say my son Jackson was quarantined for 6 school days. It worked out because of the Thanksgiving holiday. It ended up being 6 school days. Well, his attendance rate for the year will calculate the average of what his overall, so let's say his overall attendance rate for the year, it probably will be 98 or 99%. Well, so it'll probably be 100%, honestly. Then that will calculate back into those 6 days at 100%. So they're being very generous with us on the attendance rules with quarantining and virtual education.
good. Well, that's good. I was
Yeah.
just surprised when I saw it.
It is good.
Yep, Tina, you've muted again. Hang on. There you go.
Am I good?
Yep.
All right, Kathy, it looks like you're up for the assessment and evaluation of district programs.
Hey, well, Deb pulled the report together, so I'm going to let her go ahead and present her first report.
And we'll see how well this goes. I told Kathy to feel free to jump in if she wanted to. Just kind of an overview on the revenues, basic formula and classroom trust fund. We're a little bit below where we should be year to date. We should be about 42% of the budget, and we're at like 38. And then overall, when looking just at the general operating and special revenue funds, funds 1 and 2, we're at about 25% of budget. But with taxes coming in December, that will jump way up next month. Expenditures, general operating and special funds, we're at about 31% of our budget year to date. Crazy, but we're 45,000 lower than last year at this time year to date. So didn't really have time to dig into that to see why, but unless Kathy can think of something off the top of her head, but
It's really a combination of accounts, so.
yeah. I would guess by mid-year to closer to in the spring, that will level off a little bit, would be my guess. So, and then your fund balance percentage is at 13.59%. Kathy said the goal for the board has been between 20 and 25%. You'd like to see that, and after we get our tax money in here in December, that should jump up into that higher bracket for you. Any questions on that? Yes, I have a question. Where would I find that 13% figure? What page of your report? Because I'm having a hard time following. It On the revenue report? On the graph pages. It is on the bottom of the first page. It says right below the graph that talks about fund balance summary through the month ending November 30th. It's like Okay, kind of a, I'm not seeing any. No, there's no graphs on the expenditure. There's just an expenditure report and a revenue report, and it's all. you have to be down in the next tables. section of the agenda under teaching and learning, public interest, the assessment and evaluation.
Nancy, you're in the wrong one.
Oh, sorry. I thought we were still up there.
No,
Sorry.
go to 6A on that
I was
report.
going to say,
The budget.
these do not look familiar. Gotcha. I was going to say, this is really different. Okay.
So
Perfect. I'm with you now. Gotcha. Okay, good.
I'm trying to remember.
Where did we go?
That 13% kind of hit me in the gut a little bit. I'm trying to remember, is it usually this low before taxes start rolling in?
Yeah, last year, Not if you bad. look at the next page, it actually shows last year's, and I think you were at
Okay.
14 point something. Let me see.
2.
Okay.
14.62 last year at this time.
Okay. Okay.
And part of that, Tina, is where the governor's withheld that money, and they haven't started releasing any of that money yet. Now we are seeing that the revenues are coming in, but they haven't released the money yet. So until that money gets released, Deb talked about that lack of income. That's the revenue side, because they still have that money withheld. So
Okay.
When are we going to get that shot in the arm from the Walmart stuff where they're?
That doesn't go on the books until January 1. So if you recall, it's just like your home getting assessed. It doesn't happen until January 1. So it'll go on the books January 1. And so next tax year is when we'll get that.
Gotcha.
And then we use it for a lease payment. It's just an in and out, isn't it?
Yes, correct, Nancy.
But it should be a bigger payment than that. It'll be quite a shot. So.
And I read also in the county, our county sales tax, we're at what, 10%? As compared to last year, I was, some of the information out there.
Yeah,
so
they're rolling in pretty good.
So we should be okay there.
All right, any other questions or comments? All right, thanks, Deb.
You're welcome.
Moving on to the rescind old policy F-140P. Paul, do you have anything to add to that before we make the motion?
Well, I just want everybody to be familiar with the process now, because the way that the new board policies are written, we have to actually rescind the previous policy before adopting a new policy. So that's just something new that you're going to see with the EGS policies. So, and this is just the purchasing policy that we've had, and it's just that pretty much that $5,000 to $15,000 range. That we have to have those quotes. So
All
it's
right,
just
Paul,
very
it says
we need a
that
motion.
you can have a designee. You can have a designee, but is there a
Let's,
procedure that you have to go through to say, here's my 3 designees and this is number 1, number 2, number 3, or how does that
before,
work?
hey Bing, before we get
What?
any questions, let's make a motion and then we can ask questions.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so can we get a motion on that?
Okay, I'll make the motion to rescind effective 12/15/2020 policy F-140 people.
Second, Cameron.
Okay, now I'm sorry, Bing, go ahead with your question.
Well, it's probably going to be for the next section. I got ahead of myself here. This is just to rescind the policy, so.
correct.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? All right, we have a motion and a second.
Nancy,
Yes.
Cameron,
Yes.
Brittany,
Yes.
Doug Meyer, Tina,
Yes.
Bing,
Yes.
Doug A.
Yes,
Okay, now we will move on to board policy F-140P. We need I'm assuming, Paul, you don't have anything to add to this one?
No, ma'am.
All right, we need a motion.
Doug A., I'll make the motion to adopt effective 12/15/2020 new board policy F-140-people as presented.
Second, Cameron.
Okay, now Bing, I think you've had a question.
So now here's where my question comes in, is the part where it says superintendent or designee. Is there who do we know what those designees are? Do you have, like, it goes in order of position, like to Jason next, or how does that work?
Yep, it typically does. However, the business director, when we sign off on purchase orders, the business director typically does that if I'm away. So that's who typically gets designation, but Jason has had it as well.
Do we have to spell that out in any way, or is that just?
No, it's just my designee, so it's whoever I
Okay.
designate. So.
All right, did we have any other questions or comments?
Jason had his hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jason.
I just was going to say this policy is one that was approved. The only thing is the revision it was caught on the 15,000, and this has the less than and more than, so that before 15,000 was in no man's land.
Gotcha. All right.
And we had a purchase that was for 15,000, so it was like, where does it fall in the policy?
Right. This is 15,001 cents. All right. We have a motion and a second.
Nancy,
Yes.
Cameron,
Yes.
Brittany,
Yes.
Doug Meyer,
Yes.
Tina,
Yes.
Bing,
Yes.
Doug A.
yes,
Okay, EGS Administrative Manual. This is information only.
Yes, because we're trusting that you all have read all 375 pages.
I did.
I know I have.
You know I have.
Your nose is growing this big.
I know Nancy has.
Got another
I
month.
have, and I have some questions since it is for information. Just so we're all on the same page when it comes time to approve it. I wanted to make sure we're all on the same page on page 22 of this manual. It states that the superintendent can change the administrative manual without board approval. And I want to make sure that we're all, I don't think personally that's a good idea. Nothing against you, Paul, but I trust your judgment, but there have been superintendents where I would not want them changing the manual without the board knowing about it. Just saying.
So the recommended change, Nancy, in that sentence is just to put the word with in that. I'm trying to get down to it. With board approval.
Yeah.
Jason's
Yes.
hands up again.
Because right now it says has the authority to make modifications to the manual without board approval. It's on the right above the checklist paragraph. It's on the paragraph above that.
Don't forget,
And I just think we should take
board
out.
still approves policy. This
Right.
is more like the procedures that we had before that the board did not approve.
And that's what I would say too, Nancy. This is the administration of the policies. That's essentially what this is. So basically the board approves the policies, and then this is the way that we're going to administer those policies. This is written out how we're going to administer those policies.
And it's how EGS has their model of all the handbooks, the policies, and everything lined up to work together.
I understand that. And I understand that it's administrative. I guess I just think years down the road, when we don't have this superintendent, a superintendent could put procedures in this manual without the board knowing about it that we might not agree with.
They would have to match
That's all.
the board policy.
I'm just putting it out there. We've been through some nonsense, and I just want to make sure everybody is aware of this. And it's just, I just want everybody to know. It's a concern for me, but if, let's chew on it and figure it out. I understand it's administrative. I get that.
So
And maybe we can ask that as a question to Dwayne at Ed Council and
Yeah.
present Nancy's point.
Yep, I'd be glad to do that.
because when you say that,
If you don't mind,
yeah, go ahead, Nancy.
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
No,
When you-
go ahead. I would like to hear Dwayne's take on it.
Okay, I'll pose that question to him.
'Cause
Nancy,
when
I'll
you
just,
say that it's got to match, what I guess, what am I trying to ask here? When you say that it's got to match the policy, I understand that, but if how do we ensure that it matches? I guess I think that's probably what Nancy's getting at. So how would the board ensure that the procedure matches the policy if the superintendent can change it?
and I
Yes.
understand what she's saying. I'll just
Yeah.
use an example of what's in this as a form. So
Yeah,
we have a policy and we have a certain form. If we need to update that form and do some changes, we would have to take that to the board. And so now we're a month or 2 months out to get approval for that change of that form. It's matching our policy. Everything, if we haven't changed the policy, we're just changing the form. And that happens periodically. I mean, probably more often than not. And
especially with federal forms.
ways the forms were just all there.
Yeah, especially with our federal forms like homeless and title, that we get frequent changes on those almost monthly.
Well, yeah, that makes sense. I was
Yeah.
just looking at it from an overall perspective, but I hear what you're saying.
All right. Did anybody have any other questions or comments about that?
I had a couple more questions. On page 54, it talks about staff complaints. And I was just wondering, when staff has a complaint about something going on in the district and they make their complaint, I guess, on this form or to their building principal or whatever, do any of those ever, is there a way, or do we need to know about it? Does the board ever become aware of those complaints
If it's a formal grievance.
from staff? So that's what they're talking about when it's at that level? A staff complaint?
It's supposed to climb. I mean, so, you know, typically we resolve those at a building level. If it doesn't get resolved at the building level, it comes to central office. If it doesn't get resolved, you know, and I know you I think the year prior to my coming here, you dealt with a grievance from.
Yes.
So
So that
that's
would be the
kind of
only time we would know about it.
correct.
Okay. Okay.
Jason,
Hang on, I'm checking. I've got a couple more, but let me make sure they make sense.
Nancy, usually after a grievance or a complaint and an investigation is done, I present Mr. Menching with a report of findings of fact of kind of what went involved.
Okay.
Some of them are more formal than others.
Okay. On the EEOC administrative thing, there weren't any forms to go with that. And I guess I was surprised about that. There's no forms in the manual for an EEOC complaint, unless it's just, it says administrative manual, there is a blue highlighted form, but then under forms, it says there are no forms. So I was confused about that. Whatever. If there's a form, there's a form. On page 99, this was a new one for me. It says that before the board votes on anything, that the board secretary is supposed to identify board members who should recuse themselves. I didn't know that was supposed to happen. Did you know that, Susan?
Yeah, it's mainly if there's a nepotism that we've talked
Nepotism.
about that chart.
Right, I know, but in the past, board members usually just recuse themselves because they
Right.
know, if they're aware of it.
Right. I usually try to talk to them ahead of time so they can just abstain.
Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure that. And just a minute on 144. On page 144, there's a yellow line that says title of designee, and it's not, there's no title put in there. So I didn't know if
Yeah,
it's supposed to be superintendent.
we've got some, we have not met on this yet. We were supposed to meet tomorrow and
Okay.
somebody has COVID, so, you know, that's not happening.
Presumed, Susan, presumed.
Somebody.
Presumed COVID.
Well,
sorry.
postpone it for a while. You
Yeah.
need to sleep tomorrow, Susan.
But
Yeah, we have our.
And then
we-
the other one,
I've got tabs,
go ahead.
tons of tabs on there with questions and comments. And yeah, we've got quite a bit of cleanup to do on it.
Yeah, we just haven't had a chance to meet yet, Nancy. So we're meeting after the New Year. So
I was just curious on one of the virtual courses where it talks about MOCAP.
mhm.
How many students do we have enrolled in that? Do you know off the top of your head?
Not off the top of my head. All the students that are listed
I was just,
on the enrollment sheet under virtual are not all MOCAP students.
right.
So we do have a few MOCAP students who have selected to go with a different provider. So maybe 5.
I say it's not very many, is it?
No, it's not.
Okay. And then my last one was about, it's on page 318, the checklist for graduation exercises. And I know for this year and last year it didn't apply the attendance policy, but it's not listed anywhere on there for the checklist. And we are still going to be doing that, aren't we, eventually?
We will, but we won't be doing it now. So.
Right.
And these are
But does it-
annual. We do these every year, correct, Paul?
Oh,
Yes.
oh, do you? Okay, okay.
So that's
Great.
whatever your readings for this year.
So basically next year when
Okay.
COVID is gone, we'll put it back in.
And then I didn't realize you reviewed it annually. Okay, cool.
If anybody else has any changes as you look through this, please email me. Like I say, I've got a list compiled, and when we have our meeting and go through, I can add those in. And Nancy, I wrote these down as you went through it, but if you see anything else.
No, that's my list. Thank you, Susan.
Thanks, Nancy.
Oh, you don't mean
Does,
it.
are there more questions or comments?
Nope.
No.
All right. Strategic plan update, Paul.
So, again, I'm going to allude to the fact that we're trying to control what we can control. So we've focused a separate district admin team meeting with our principals, building principals, on instruction and the MTSS process. And so we continue to hold those meetings. We haven't had one in December. Obviously, it's a shorter month, but we'll continue those once the new year starts. And so that multi-tier system of support and how we identify students and trying to get our data teams off the ground. So we're really trying to attack the instruction side and control what we can control. And so that from a strategic plan side is where we are trying to address. Now, the difficult thing is, one of the things that my goals was to develop a scorecard for our strategic plan. Well, we really don't have the data. It's been skewed tremendously because of the COVID protocols. So, for example, one of those things is the assessments. All of our assessments, we didn't have them last spring. I'm not sure what data we're going to have from them this year. Our attendance, as Nancy pointed out, the attendance metrics are a lot different than they have been because of the allowances. So the measurables that we would use in a scorecard are quite different. And so that probably is not going to happen until we can see where the virus takes us and where, the vaccine or whatever transition occurs from a health perspective. Until we're out of the pandemic and the emergency state we're in, it's really difficult to develop that scorecard. And so what we've really tried to focus on are, of course, budget. Always we try to continually review the budget and how tight we are there, but also the instruction. We feel like we can how we can improve that building by building, as we have an overall goal for our district to address that MTSS process. So that's where we are with our strategic plan currently. So, any questions?
I don't think so.
All right.
You want to give us the construction management update next?
Well, actually, what I'm going to do is when you get to the design approval under business services, I've got Brandon Stanley here from Newkirk and Novak. Brandon's project manager on this. And Brandon, if you don't mind giving an update on that, and then when we get to the business services, the design approval, I'll have Justin give an update at that point. So each of you have your own point on the agenda here. So Brandon, if you don't mind, give us an update from your perspective.
So right now we've gone through 100% design development, which I'm sure Justin will speak to here in a moment. Hall Miller is getting ready to wrap up construction drawings the end of this month, and we will have 100% construction documents by the end of the first week of January. At that point in time, our plan would be to get the construction packages together and put them out to bid middle of January. and then take numbers by the end of January and be in a position to present those numbers to the board for approval at that time. And then we'd be in a position to start construction on the additions at the Career Center and the early childhood come early spring, weather permitting, say middle of February. Any questions about that process?
Did I hear you say you're going to put the bids out the second week in January and then
Yes.
have
Yes,
them
ma'am.
be due the same month?
Yes. So typically when we put bids out, 2-week turnaround time would be typical on that. Subcontractors are very used to providing numbers for scopes of work within 2 weeks.
Okay.
A little more on that as well. And being, I don't know if you want to speak to what we're doing tomorrow night and Thursday, but engaging the local subcontractor community in Harrisonville is obviously one of our top priorities, and we've been working with Being and the local chamber working on that. Tomorrow night at 6 o'clock, we're having a virtual subcontractor engagement call where I'll be talking through the scopes of work, the projects, that process from bid to contracting, awarding, insurance policies, and that sort of thing, anything related to that process, so that your local subcontractor community will be well aware of what's required from us when we do put those bids out on January 11th. Around January 11th is what the ETA is right now. And then I'll be coming down to Harrisonville Thursday night, and we'll be at the chamber myself with some drawings that how they're drawn as of today. Obviously, they're not 100%, but they're very close. So if anybody'd like to come in, ask me questions, look at the drawings, look at some sample scopes of work, I'll be available to take local contractor questions at the chamber Thursday night. And we've worked with the chamber and obviously the school district to communicate via the local newspapers, Board of Education, or excuse me, the school website, Facebook, also with the chamber on their Facebook and their website. So.
Yeah, that's an exciting thing.
Sounds great.
To partner with you guys. So thank you for that, Brandon.
Absolutely. I'm hoping, with this sort of engagement that we'll be able to get a lot of good turnout with your local trade partners.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
So then, Paul, did you want to turn it over to Justin?
Well, yeah, that covers that side of it. I guess, yeah, we go to business services and we've got that does need approval. So, we would need a motion, and I don't know where you want Justin to present, if you want to present first or how you want to do that. So,
let's go ahead and have Justin present first, but make sure to hold your questions, guys, so Justin will present, then we'll do the motion, and then we can ask questions.
Susan, can you allow me to share my screen? I have a presentation I'd like to show you guys.
Okay, hang on just a second.
So like Brandon said, while Susan kind of pulls it up, one, I wanted to start with saying thank you to Paul and Jason. They sat through hours and hours of meetings with our design team, and your guys' staff was fantastic with very good, very direct feedback for us that really helps us kind of confine what we're looking to do in terms of kind of moving the process forward. So it was a very fun process to meet with the crew every week and then go through that. And I really wanted to say thank you for allowing your staff to take that time to meet with us so often so that we could kind of go through and get all those answers. So tonight what I wanted to do is just show you guys some images of we'll start with the CCC. And so we had met with this one multiple times. Can everybody see my screen here? Okay.
Yes.
So we started with it and we started to really look at, we wanted to try to modernize the exterior of the facility, not only enhance the programs that are within it, including ag, fire, HVAC, some of the other stuff you'll see in a second. But what we wanted to do is as you turn into that drive and as you approach the facility, we really wanted to try to give it a good look, a new look, something that would kind of catch your eye and make you say, wow, like I want to go to this location. So along with some of the additions that you see here on the screen, the new greenhouse that's kind of front and center as you approach the site. We kind of gave a facelift to the facility, just trying to modernize it with some new fencing and some landscaping and the greenhouse and the additions that we'll be doing in hopes of really kind of taking the exterior look of the facility to the next level. And I think the team did a great job in terms of incorporating different types of materials that are a little bit more on the industrial side, like metal panels, perforated metal panels, glass, glazing, and even some new signage within the front approach. So we were pretty excited about how that turned out. Here's kind of a new look to what the ag approach would be. So this would be the ag building and the new look that it has. You can see what's kind of existing down there on the lower right, and then the look that it would have when we're complete with the work. Here's the new student entry. So you can see how the addition kind of plays into that. One of the things that we wanted to make sure that we did as police and fire started to donate some of those trucks and things like that for the students to use during class and to work on, et cetera, they had a good covered carport in order to be able to not only store them, but potentially even work on those vehicles outside, kind of learn and extend that classroom piece to the outdoors.
Justin, Roy, quick, can you go back to that student entry? I just want to, security has been a big focus, and I just wanted to mention that adds some security level to this entrance where our high school kids are going back and forth between the CCC and the high school. They don't use the front entrance. And so having some levels of security back here on this back side was important to the team also as we're securing the front side.
Yeah, that's on the west side of the building. So you basically where Big Blue is right now, that's where our kids typically walk in from our building. So
yeah, and I remember this, and I'll show it to you on the plan when we get there on this backside entry, because they're exactly right. So the new nursing suite, the nursing facility that we are looking at. So here's kind of the approach as it sits now, right? This is kind of what you see when you approach the facility. And this is going to be kind of the new look. This will house the nursing program, which I'll show you guys the floor plan a little bit later. And then we've been working with Newkirk and Novak and the district to make sure that we get all the components within this facility that the district needs and wants in order to make it a success, but also try to work within that grant fund allowance that we had to build it. So it was a little bit challenging in terms of making sure we had the appropriate pieces and the square footage appropriate to get it within budget, but I think we're in a really good spot. So here's kind of how it would look from the east side. And then to show you guys more on the interior development, one of the steps that we take is looking at the existing facility and then doing some renderings to talk about the new finishes that we would have. So this would be the wood tones, the finishes on the walls, the paint, the flooring, those kind of things. So we have that interior character kind of established that plays along with those color palettes of the existing Cash Career Center, and we'll just expand on those as we modernize through the building. So we really got into pretty good detail when it comes to this, because this is the way that the building will look. These are the materials that will be in it, the tile in the restrooms, the different types of flooring, the paints, and it really starts to set the mood and the tone for the facility. So we work pretty hard on making sure that we get this right. And then we do some renderings to kind of show that. So I'll get to those in a second. But as Paul and Jason were saying, so safety and security is one of the paramount things that we wanted to accomplish in this bond issue. And for the CCC, that meant redoing that secure vestibule, kind of adding this back set of doors. And then we were able to redo kind of that front office piece and renovate that a little bit for them, just to make the flow a little bit better and to upgrade or update kind of this facility. So as you're a new visitor coming in, not only will you see that wow factor from that refurbished exterior and that new look, but you'll get it when you walk in through the front doors as well. So this is kind of a shot of what the kind of that reception admin desk could look like. So as you come in and you're a visitor, or you're checking in from another school, this is kind of the look that you would see. And then when we talk about active and passive when it comes to safety, so this active things are like doors, maybe buzzers, things like that. We also talk about passive, and those would be just line of sight, giving good visibility from that administrative desk out so that we can see if something bad is approaching us. It gives us a little bit more time to react for that safety and security component. So you can see lots of good glass up here. So we have good lines of sight, not only into the facility, but even outside as people are trying to check in. And then here's kind of a look from the corridor from the new office suite. So one of the big charges was we wanted to update ag, and we gave them their own clean lab, their own clean classroom. So this is kind of a look of how it could function. We've moved their classrooms from where they currently were, so I'll show you that here in a little bit. For the nursing piece, so here's kind of what I was telling you is we worked really hard to make sure that they had the appropriate restrooms, offices, conference, storage in the exam rooms that the staff really wanted in order to make this program a success. So we worked well within that budget, that $460,000 budget, and we're going to get them everything that they need to make that program a success. It's pretty exciting that you guys got that grant and we were able to fold that into the overall project. It'll even have its own reception area. So as you're coming into that program, you'll have a space of its own dedicated kind of reception piece. And then here's kind of a view of what some of those medical stations could look like. So they could house full-size gurneys and beds so that students can really learn to work and manipulate those pieces just as they would do in a doctor's office or a hospital or wherever their career takes them. A good shot of the conference room. Welding, those welding booths that are currently there were in need of a little bit of rehab. So not only with ventilation, but even their layout as we knew it. So we reworked this area quite a bit in order to facilitate, more welding booths and make sure that that ventilation was appropriate and will work well. And then here's a little bit more on that agricultural piece. So what you guys can see here is the ag shop. And then we actually are doing a small addition for those ag classrooms that used to be over here. We're actually reconfigured that area that's across the hallway, gave them a third classroom, and now they have 3 classrooms, a clean lab in here with sinks and refrigerators and some stainless steel tops. And then they also have some more storage across the hallway. So knowing this is a very robust program for you guys, we actually expanded the footprint to make it flow and work a little bit better for those individuals that use it on a daily basis. It wasn't something that we had originally programmed in terms of the addition for ag, but we were able to look at it as a whole, shift and move some things around, and then we were able to add that in and still be in budget. So I think this will really make the ag shop flow and work a lot better for the staff and the students. And here's kind of a shot of those, the ag shop, some of the booths along the wall. And you guys can see how we just have graphic up here. That's just a placeholder for something that we would like to put on the wall later. So we'll work with the teams to design some cool, graphic up here that they may want. We just don't know what that quite looks like yet. So that's just a placeholder for us. Ag classrooms. So one thing that we did look at is this is something that was kind of added in for us, and we were able to also add it in with the overall budget. So this fire classroom, fire lockers, this is kind of right across the hallway from ag. So ag's up here kind of to your upper left. And we took this space and we're going to reconfigure it for a nice size classroom. We'll have some large lockers that will house some of that fire equipment so the students can go in just like they would in a firehouse and do what they would do there, learn how to change, get dressed. We have a dedicated office and some storage. And then we have the fire shop. So this would be able to house the fire truck that we have, and it would be able to pull in, be worked on, used, manipulated by the students so that they know what they're doing each and every day. So pretty exciting in order to be able to add this into the program. It's not something that we thought we could get in on day one, but as the team worked together with your guys' staff, I will say the staff was very accommodating in terms of, you know, if we can give a little bit for this program and give a little bit more to this other one and we can fit it in, they were more than willing to do that. So it was pretty exciting. Another classroom shot. And then another thing that we were able to add in is the HVAC shop. So this will be an addition on that west side. And remember that addition that Jason was talking about as you come in on the west side? This is where that new secure entry vestibule and addition would be. So this is the one that I think the students use probably most of the time as they come from the high school and they come in. So this gives them another secure entry point that you can come into a locked vestibule, be checked in, and then be allowed to come into the facility. So this is a really good place that the students can use, but it's also another true secure entry component to it. They would be able to come right into this hallway, have access to ag, and then they obviously have a really good access to their large classroom and their new HVAC shop with electrical storage rooms. So this component also did have restrooms. So if the students are out here, they don't have to go back into the core of the building to use the restrooms. We thought that that would be good to provide that on this side of the building for a little bit of convenience for those students. And there's kind of that.
Now it's listed as an HVAC shop, but it's just going to be an extra program area for whatever program that kind of tends to be.
Yep. Yep. And that's all on that one. I know that was a lot. And then let me see if I can get to it real quick. I had another one for ECC. See if I can get that to pull up. Maybe. Any questions on Cash Career Center before we move on to the next one?
At some point, we'd be able to
Yes.
existing like footprint and then show some of the additions so we can kind of get a visual of the additions and area that we're increasing. I mean, I follow along on some of that information, but sometimes I kind of need a different little perspective of it.
Yeah, so you're looking at maybe like a full floor plan that we can look at so we can see that?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes. I will get one of those out to you guys. And then I'll send that to Paul and Jason, and maybe they can get that out to you guys as the board so you can kind of see that piece too.
Yeah, thank you. I think it just use another perspective that'll help us understand that
Yeah.
what we're doing.
And yeah, I understand that because yes, we've been looking at it so long, I can visualize where those are at on the plan, and I apologize, I didn't have that in there for you guys. Okay,
No.
Let me share my screen and we'll go through the ECC, middle school, and HES designs real quick. So at HES, the idea here was just to create a nice secure entry component and then redo kind of that front reception area. So everything that's in kind of the white that is not grayed out, everything that's in the white is going to be renovated. So we've looked at that secure entry piece. We're adding the doors back here to create that secure vestibule. You will come in, check in, and then be able to be released into the facility to have access to the staff and students. So what that allows us to do is not only have a little bit of additional waiting for the nurse and some of the staff that's here, but for parents and things like that that want to hang out in the front office while there are students on their way up for being released. Again, we went through that final interior, the finish palette that we do. So we talked a lot about the paint and color, the wood stains, the carpets, the tiles that could be in the facility. And this is kind of that 3D rendering shot of that new secure entry. So you would come in the doors right behind us. You'd approach the desk, be checked in, and then be allowed to leave the office through here. So, and then the nurse's suite is back behind the reception here. So that's kind of how the new layout would work for HES. And then what we did is, as an alternate, just to make sure that we were giving ourselves some room, this was kind of on the wish list for the district, or for this building, was to really kind of redo some of the other spots in the office. So as an alternate bid, so the base bid would be the secure entry, and this would be an add alternate. And if we can afford it, we will definitely do this. But this would be renovating these other areas that are now in white. So the principal's office, the controller's office, giving a large staff flex space for some workrooms and things like that they would want, a de-escalation room and a holding room off of the nurse's suite. So it would just add some additional components that if we can afford it, HES would really love it if we could get it in there. So we decided to go ahead and draw it and then take it as an alternate for that piece. So you can see it changes the way that the office will work a little bit in terms of the way that the reception, the admin area would be laid out. But what it does do is give some additional space for that additional like lunchroom, workroom, that staff flex area that they are kind of needing in this building right now. And then the middle school, the front office. So this would be kind of taking that front entry, that front office, and making that secure vestibule, which is already there, but redoing the office so that it works a little bit cleaner and a little bit better flow for the process. You can see down on the lower right that it's a little bit tighter, and what we want to try to do is open that up a little bit and give it a little bit better flow. Some of the finishes that we worked with the district in picking for this facility. One of the things that we looked at for the middle school is trying to rework the way that the serving area works along with the cafeteria. So we had a kitchen consultant come in and work with our teams and really help us understand what we currently have and then what we could renovate and what we could do with this space in order to make it flow a little bit better. So what we kind of came up with is trying to have the students enter from the north and enter from the south, pick up their food, and then leave through like a larger central opening that we would create. And you would have your point of sale, your cashier that would set out here and catch the students as they walk out into the cafeteria. We think that this will increase the amount of flow and the ability for students to move through a little bit quicker and give them a little bit more time to eat their lunch instead of the one single line that is currently there right now. So the flex spaces, one of the things that we wanted to create with this is just taking some space within the building and carving it out to give them some more flexible workspaces within the building. So we showed some ideas down on the lower left of, you know, flexible walls, flexible furniture, and things like that. And so what we came up with is creating some spaces that are kind of classrooms that can be opened up, and they can be used as individual classrooms or maker spaces, but then can be opened up into the whole hallways and corridors to expand the ability for them to be used for maybe a larger group or some other activity. So we carved out a few spaces. We worked with Mr. Grantham and we carved out a few spaces around the facility that could kind of accommodate that flexible learning piece that we were trying to accomplish. And then also in the hallways, you can see we're going to try to create some nooks and crannies for students to gather and work more in like groups of 1 and 2 and smaller groups. So we had the bigger room that you just saw, and then these spaces here would accommodate some of those smaller groups of 1, 2, 3, 4 students along the hallways. And then here's kind of that medium size. So you saw the big room that could accommodate 25 or so students. You just saw the hallway that could do the groups of 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that's kind of our small group. And then this is a good example of what we would call like a medium size, that 10 to 12, 8 to 10 to 12 students that could fit in here. They could bring a laptop, they could throw something on a TV, and they could work very collaboratively into a small group. And it's right off of one of the hallways. So it's easily visible, and the teachers would be able to kind of keep an eye on what's going on out there. So for the outdoor flex space, so this is that ramp that heads down into the cafeteria now that we seem to have almost an annual issue with flooding. And so what we started at looking is just replacing the drain and making sure that this area down here by the doors no longer gave us water issues. But then we thought, well, if we're going to do that, what else could that space be, and what could we use it for? So the team's done a nice job here of making what we would call kind of a learning stair piece. So we'll have some concrete stairs that will allow a group of students or patrons to come and have almost like an outdoor small amphitheater type space where you could sit down here and you could teach or orate to some students that are sitting on the stairs or the bleachers. But it also still has that ADA ramp, that accessibility piece that we would want down into the cafeteria, and that leads us to the gym as well. So it was just kind of a nice redo. We thought if we were doing something for the space, we might as well just take it all the way and fix it and make it right for the school district. Early childhood. So this one's kind of fun. So this was kind of the big project on the site for the early childhood. So this would be taking that entry as it is now, that is back up in here. So how you walk up from the parking lot, you walk up the sidewalk, and you kind of enter into the building here. What we've done is we've taken a new look and we've created a new secure entry, a new reception area, and a new office, and how that ties into the now new serving kitchen, and then the gymnasium and cafeteria spaces. So this whole area up in the front is getting a full renovation and redo. So you can see here now we have a new secure entry. You'll come into the office, you'll check in at the reception, and then you would be able to come out and have access to the staff and the students. We also have a conference room, an office, a workspace now, and a nurse's area that we didn't have before, a toilet. And then now we have incorporated a new serving kitchen. So now that when food is brought over from the middle school, they have a nice kitchen that they will be able to keep that food warm and then serve that food better than they were able to before. I know that they were using a lot of the cafeteria, the gymnasium space to do that previously. So again, some of the color palettes that we had talked about, keeping with that school pride, that Wildcat pride, and the blues and the greens and things like that to keep that piece. Here's what that new secure entry could look like, with some graphic on the wall to our right, and then the branding behind the reception desk as they check in. This could be the waiting area, so some graphics. You guys can see the blue metal wall panels behind. That's going to be the look on the exterior. We have some fun lighting that we're going to do, and the new storefront that comes in. So make it a kid-friendly, fun, kind of early childhood themed waiting area. And then this is how we envision kind of that entry, that scramble, that serving piece going for these younger students, is they could come through, they could pick up their trays, and they can go right out. So it's a nice, smooth, easy flow from entering to gathering their foods and then going out into the cafeteria to eat. So the big charge on this was the 3.2 acres that's set to the northeast of the facility. So right here, what you'll see is what we're thinking for a dedicated bus loop and some staff parking up here towards the north. And then we've got additional bus for the middle school a little bit further south with larger parking. And we've also expanded the parking. So what we hope to do here is, we know that these groups are in different shifts a little bit. So we can start to separate those bus riders and car riders by using the two different loops. So you can see here we have the early childhood bus loop on the north, like I was saying. And then just below that, we'll have the bus loop for the middle school, plus this lower south loop can be used for our car riders, so that we don't have that interaction between buses and vehicles, which we always want to try to avoid. And then the other thing we got to do was add another set of parking spaces here and expand that parking count just a little bit to help accommodate some of that flow that we have on football nights and some of the other events that happen down at the field. The big blue element that you see here in the middle of the screen, that's the new canopy. So one of the things that we heard is that as our littlest ones are getting out and getting onto the buses or getting into their parents' vehicles, we wanted to provide some cover for that. So that blue that you see there is the awning that kind of allows that access to happen. So here's the exterior shot as you're looking kind of at the middle school in the background, and then the early childhood is kind of off to our right. And this is that new addition that you see. So there's the new canopy that we were just talking about, and those blue metal panels that you'll kind of see that really start to instill that Wildcat pride with that blue, and then that new early childhood entry that you see here. we really thought that this really modernized and freshened up the exterior of that facility as you approach. And then looking more towards from what would be the middle school, kind of to the south, looking more north at that new entry. And I think that's it.
All right. Let's get a motion out there and then ask away with any questions for Justin. Can we get a motion?
Hang on just a second, Tina. We've got
Okay.
Nancy came back on, and I don't know if she's having trouble. We need to get her unmuted. Nancy, are you there?
I am.
Okay. All right. Now we can go.
Now we need a motion.
This is Meyer. Move to approve the final design as presented for phase 1 of the bond projects.
Brittany,
Do we-
second.
Okay, perfect.
That was Brittany.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Want to talk before we vote?
Sure, I have a couple questions. On the ECC, there's an entrance to the north side of the building. I think, I can't remember if it's Fuller Street or Popular Street or whatever it is. What's happening there security-wise? Is that going to be shut off to where everybody has to come into that front side of the building? Or is there going to be something secure on that north side now?
I think the idea is that all visitors would now come into the new secure entry piece. There's still that parking that could be across on the north side, but that would be strictly maybe for some staff overflow that we know some staff like to park across there and potentially come across the street. So there's no real security added to that north side. We're going to try to push all of our new visitors in through our new secure entry on the south side of the building. That's correct.
Currently, it's that way too. Currently, all visitors coming down below. That's only open for student entry in the morning and exit for the preschool kids.
So it's going to remain.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then the next question I had is, we've talked about how we're securing the west side of the CCC for the students that are coming from the high school. Have we reversed that and put some kind of security on the north end of the high school so when they go back, there's a secure entrance there as well?
So the high school will be in the next round of projects that we look at doing. And yes, that will be one of the things. Jason and I have already touched base on that a couple of times, him being the old principal there that knows that building fairly well. Yeah, we've touched on that quite a bit in terms of that next round. We will make that tie from building to building in that secure entry piece on that north side. You're correct.
Perfect. And then with the bus loops.
I had a couple of questions.
I think Bing was still going, Nancy.
Sorry.
Sorry. Go ahead.
On the bus loops, there at the ECC and the HMS, they seem like they're very close together. Would there be any kind of confusion for the students getting on the wrong bus between the schools?
Yeah, they're totally different times. So the high school or the middle school and the ECC, they won't have buses there at the same time. So that actually worked in our favor of having that time difference in between the ECC pickup and then when the middle school picks up. So I think once we get into it, we'll have a flow chart that will help you guys create. We can send that out to the parents and the staff, and so that they'll know which loop to use at what time. But yeah, because there's a difference in time there, I don't think there will be much confusion.
Okay. Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Nancy, did you have something?
Hi, Justin. I just had a couple questions. Yes, a couple of questions also about the Career Center.
Mm-hmm.
Is the welding area remaining in the same location?
Yes, it is. And it's just being rehabbed. So we're going to redo that space with finishes, new welding booths, and then we're also going to upgrade the ventilation in that space for those welding booths.
And increase storage.
Well,
yes.
What about the huge issue that with the roof where there's leaking coming into the welding. I thought that was a huge issue.
There was an
From the
issue
roof.
with the way the slope roof comes down and meets the flatter roof of the welding, and we'll make sure that that gets taken care of too. We've worked on that a little bit in the past with Jason in terms of doing some gutter work and some stuff out there, but that will be part of what we take care of.
And Justin, just I can hop in too. We've had roofers out. This is Brandon with Newkirk Novak. We've had roofers come out and evaluate that space in the roof within the last couple of weeks, and we have some recommendations to repair that roof so that we don't get those leaks anymore. So that will be wrapped up into this project.
Well, that would be great since we're spending all the money on new welding. Curious about the material that you're going to use for the new greenhouse that's going to be part of the perimeter. What material is that going to be?
Like the plexiglass or glass greenhouse, it's like a plexiglass or a perforated glass type material. It's more plastic than it is glass, if that makes sense. Those
So is
are
it
now made out of like
fairly
a polycarbonate
vandalism? So some kid couldn't come along and throw a rock at it and break it and cause damage?
It would withstand the rock being thrown at it. There might be a small white mark or a little blemish in the polycarbonate panel, but it wouldn't break like a sheet of glass. So where it could show a little bit of mar if kids did come up and throw rocks at it, but it won't break like a sheet of glass.
Okay, I guess I have a little bit of a concern for that being a secure area, just that it could be breached somehow.
The greenhouse is.
I don't know, because back, it sits way back off.
It's a separate building, Nancy. So if they breach it, they're not going to get into the building from the safety perspective.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
My other question is, what sort of exterior material, material are you using for the addition for the HVAC room? Is it going to be where you add on to the building? Is it going to continue to be metal on the outside or brick, or what are you looking at for that?
It is. So what we used is what we call like a vertical rib metal panel, and it's got a nice architectural look to it. So that's why we tried to show those in those renderings. And I'll make sure that you guys get a copy of that presentation so you can look at it a little bit closer. But we felt that with the current look of the building and then the things that it houses currently, kind of those more industrial components of fire, welding, ag, that we kind of wanted to stick with that, but make it a more updated, kind of more modern look of a metal panel.
Yes. Okay, and I just have to say one more thing before we vote on this finally, because it is in the design phase, that you are going to make sure you have the correct name on the inside of the building, right?
Yes.
Not Cass County, whatever you say.
Oh, was it wrong on the rendering? Yes.
Just the signage would be
the right one.
Yes, that would be great. Those were my questions, and I appreciate you sending things so we can get a better idea. I know you guys have been looking at it for weeks, but we haven't, so it's just nice to know.
Yes, that's why we wanted to bring it to you this evening before we were kind of all wrapped up and done with the project. So we'll make sure that you guys get a copy of the presentations that I showed tonight. If you have more questions, don't hesitate to ask.
Well, yeah, we have a copy of the presentation.
Oh, you have them already? Good.
We do.
And I need to send the floor plan too of the overall. Yep, I will do that.
Yes, that would be good. The footprint.
Well,
you mean the footprint, right?
To the greenhouse, as I looked at that, there's really, what's to say a car couldn't drive through that? I mean, is there going to be any kind of little wall there or parking breaks?
We can do that. There was a greenhouse there before that nobody drove through. So I think we were just kind of hoping that that would stay somewhat similar.
For a long time.
So that greenhouse wasn't as nice, so you wouldn't want to drive through it. This one might be a little bit different.
Period. Now it's a target, huh? Now everybody's looking at it and they're staring at it and they might just drive right into it.
Exactly. There you go.
I hear you. Yeah, we can work with Brandon and maybe throw some bollards in the front of that if you would like us to, just to increase some safety there. Yeah.
We've talked about bollards in the planning team too, by the garage doors, the fencing. So the Hollis Miller team talked about that as well as landscaping around the building to keep away from the building. So that's all been in discussion.
Yep.
Good.
All right, do we have any other questions?
No, that's great.
All right. We have a motion and a second.
All right, Brittany,
Yes.
Bing,
Yes.
Doug A,
Yes.
Cameron,
Yes.
Tina,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Doug Meyer.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Justin.
Yeah. Thank you guys for having me tonight. If I don't see you, have a good holiday.
You too.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
All right, moving on to the board resolution. Is there really anything to present on that one, Paul?
It's just a change in the signature because of our board treasurer change from Kathy to Deb. So just a request from Hawthorne Bank that we adopt a resolution naming those people listed. So it's a formality.
We need a motion.
Doug A, and I'll approve the motion as presented on the agenda.
Second.
Second,
Brittany.
Cameron.
Beat ya.
All right, Brittany,
Yes.
Bing,
Yes.
Doug A,
Yes.
Cameron,
Yes.
Tina,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Doug Meyer.
Yes.
Now we need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Nancy, so moved. Or seconds, I don't care. Did you get that, Susan?
I got Nancy making a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it, Brittany.
All right, Nancy,
Yes.
Doug Meyer,
Yes.
Tina,
Yes.
Cameron,
Yes.
Doug A,
Yes.
Bing,
Yes.
Brittany.
Yes.
Thank you all.
All right, Susan, please
Well,
get some.
Susan.
Thanks,
Have a Merry
Susan.
Christmas.
Better, Susan.
Thank you all. Merry Christmas.
Bye, guys.
Merry
Merry
Christmas.
Christmas.
And Gary as well. Merry Christmas.
Hey, guys.
You too. Oh my gosh.